Oh shit, this music slaps. I forgot how much Ren loves Irish music. We don't listen to enough Irish music. Well, that much is objectively true. Sorry for the excessive water drinking. I just finished. I've had a crazy day, but I decided to finish it with running 2.5 miles. The elliptical down the stairs. Thank you, Sassy. Sorry I started so late. Work's been riding me all week. Some of us have compulsive needs for exercise, or else they decide they're gonna starve the rest of us, so I just had to put out that fire before it burned out of control. How you doing, Sassy? Music. I'm sorry, I know I'm supposed to be reading Spooks, but I'm just vibing for a second. Don't know how long I can hang because I've got a full day tomorrow, but I'll be conscious as long as I can. Hey, not a problem, Sassy. We can have... Oh, fuck. We can have, like, rain check St. Patrick's Day next week, too. Why are you loading? Alright, well, we'll start it over. No, keep playing. Thank you. Jesus. I kind of want this music. I just found it, but I just... Alright. God damn. But yeah, we can have more of this later as well. I know my timing was kind of shit. You can hear Ren trying to learn how to sing along. I could give you some Irish facts, actually. Well, less Irish facts than they are Wolfie facts. Ren always loved to sing. And the rest of us enjoy it quite well, too. But I think the favorite time we had singing was in middle school, because quiet in comparison to the music, that's not surprising. Shh. Music. Be quiet. Or it could just pump me up, actually. How's this? Is this better? No way of telling the levels. Ah. Ah! Here we go. That looks reasonable? Now you can hear the Wolfie. Yeah. Wolfie loves Irish music. Particularly Ren. my grandfather grew us up loving to watch Lord of the Dance and Riverdance, and I mean, the dancing was cool, don't get me wrong. We love the dancing too, we imitate it when we're alone. Gods, I love the music. And of all my time singing, like actually performing singing, my favorite time was when my middle school teacher had me performing traditional Irish songs. Never did I enjoy formal singing more than I did then. And if they ever get me on the stage again, I'm not coming out unless they have me singing that kind of shit. But yeah, I used to sing that stuff. Sang Manx Lullaby, sang the shit out of Danny Boy. Castle of Dromore. Oh, there were a couple. Is this on autoplay? Not that I'm complaining, but I don't want to get copyright struck. How do I turn that off? I never use Edge. The only reason I'm using Edge is because I can't use Chrome. Because if I use Chrome, OBS is not going to capture the music. Oh, got the PTSD. What, from Danny Boy? God damn it. Wow, my internet just does not have a download speed at all. Oh yeah, that one's a tearjerker. Oh, right! Because I did not put 2 and 2 together, yeah. They would do. But, apparently when I was in middle school, I made a very Irish man cry, because I performed it, and apparently I did well enough. He was like tough as nails. He was like in charge of discipline in the school. He lost it. Such a pretty song. They have such good songs. They just have great music. God damn, you're not cooperating with me, internet. But yeah, I was thinking, gods, I'm just rambling on, but I was thinking we'd celebrate good old St. Patrick's Day with some Irish spooks, and Lord knows they've got plenty of them. Would you stop cutting the music? I took a wrong turn. Where the fuck am I? Oh. I know where I'm going. Actually, what the fuck is the story of St. Patrick's Day? Because I know that he chased out the snakes. Let me Google this shit. Story of St. Patrick's Day. History.com. Yeah, that's credible. St. Patrick's Day is celebrated annually on March 17th, the anniversary of his death in the 5th century. St. Patrick's Day 2023, but yes. Okay. The Irish have observed this day as a religious holiday for over 1,000 years. On St. Patrick's Day, which falls during the Christian season of Lent, Irish families would traditionally attend church in the morning and celebrate in the afternoon. Lenten prohibitions against consumption of meat were waived, and people would dance, drink, and feast on the traditional meal of Irish bacon and cabbage. Who the hell was St. Patrick? St. Patrick, who lived during the 5th century, is the patron saint of Ireland and its national apostle. Born in Roman Britain, he was kidnapped and brought to Ireland as a slave at 16. He later escaped, but returned to Ireland and was credited with bringing Christianity to its people. In the centuries following St. Patrick's death, believed to have been on March 17th, 461, the mythologies surrounding his life became ever more ingrained in Irish culture. Perhaps the most well-known legend of St. Patrick is that he explained the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, using the 3 leaves of a native Irish clover, the shamrock. Computer. What are you doing? Oh. What you're supposed to do, apparently. Alright. When was the first St. Patrick's Day celebrated? Since around the 9th or 10th century, people of Ireland have been observing the Roman Catholic feast day of St. Patrick on March 17th. The first St. Patrick's Day parade took place not in Ireland, but in America. Records show that the St. Patrick's Day parade was held on March 17, 1601 in a Spanish colony in what is now St. Augustine, Florida. Really? The first St. Patrick's Day parade was in Florida? Alright. The parade and the St. Patrick's Day celebration a year earlier were organised by the Spanish colony's Irish vicar, Ricardo Arthur. More than a century later, homesick Irish soldiers serving in the English military marched to New York City on March 17, 1772 to honour the Irish patron saint. Enthusiasm for the St. Patrick's Day parades in New York City, Boston, and other early American cities only grew from there. Over the next 35 years, Irish patriotism among American immigrants flourished, prompting the rise of so-called Irish Aid societies like the Friendly Sons of St. Patrick and the Hibernian Society. Each group would hold annual parades featuring bagpipes, which actually first became popular in the Scottish and British armies, and drums. In 1848, several New York Irish Aid societies decided to unite their parades to form one official New York City St. Patrick's Day parade. Today, the parade is still the world's oldest civilian parade, and the largest in the United States with over 150,000 participants. Each year, nearly 3 million people line the 1.5-mile parade route to watch the procession. It takes more than 5 hours. Boston, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Savannah also celebrate the day with parades involving between 10,000 and 20,000 participants each. In 2020, the New York City parade was one of the first major city events to be cancelled as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was again cancelled in 2021. The parade in New York City and others around the country returned in 2022. The Irish in America. Up until the mid-19th century, most Irish immigrants in America were members of the Protestant middle class. When the Great Potato Famine hit Ireland in 1845, close to 1 million poor and uneducated Irish Catholics began pouring into America to escape starvation. despised for their alien religious beliefs and unfamiliar accents by the American Protestant majority, the immigrants had trouble finding even menial jobs. When Irish Americans in the country's cities took to the streets on St. Patrick's Day to celebrate their heritage, newspapers portrayed them in cartoons as drunk, violent monkeys. Oh, well, that kind of sucks. The American Irish soon began to realize, however, that their large and growing numbers endowed them with political power that had yet to be exploited. They started to organize, and their voting bloc, known as the Green Machine, became an important swing vote for political hopefuls. Suddenly, annual St. Patrick's Day parades became a show of strength for Irish Americans, as well as a must-attend event for a slew of political candidates. Oh, here we go. What do leprechauns have to do with St. Patrick's Day? One icon of the Irish holiday is the leprechaun. The original Irish name for these figures of folklore is Lobharchan, meaning small-bodied fella. Belief in leprechauns probably stems from Celtic belief in fairies, tiny men and women who could use their magical powers to serve good or evil. In Celtic folktales, leprechauns were cranky souls, responsible for mending the shoes of other fairies. Though only minor figures in Celtic folklore, leprechauns were known for their trickery, which they often used to protect their much-fabled treasure. Leprechauns have their own holiday on May 13th. But they do? Mark your calendars, guys. May 13th is Leprechaun Day. Wait. What? And my shit froze. Oh man, it really did freeze. If you've been typing in chat, Sassy, I don't know it. Oh no, you're good. May 13th, Irish calendar, which I spelled wrong. Leprechaun Day. Oh my god. It's a thing. Wait, I am intrigued by this now. The meaning days of the year. What is the origin of this holiday? What? It's apparently a thing. I am so confused. Leprechaun. Community of supernatural being in Irish folklore. Classed by some as a solitary fairy, they're usually depicted as little bearded men wearing a coat and hat to partake in mischief. In later times, they've been depicted as shoemakers who have hidden the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. One became prominent in later folklore. The earliest known reference to the leprechaun appears in the medieval tale known as Eachtra Fergus MacLetty, Adventure of Fergus son of Letty. The text contains an episode in which Fergus MacLetty, King of Ulster, falls asleep on the beach and wakes up to find himself being dragged into the sea by 3 leprechauns. He captures his abductors, who grant him 3 wishes in exchange for release. God bless you, thank you. Wait, lucratively. So... Oh, that's like a scholarly paper on the leprechaun. Wait a second. I think I've been had. I don't think leprechauns... In America, leprechauns are often associated with St. Patrick's Day. Okay. Okay, I think May 15th is a made-up thing. Wikipedia is not talking about it. This is actually really interesting. I'm actually going to keep reading the Leprechaun Wikipedia article for a second. The leprechaun has been classed as a solitary fairy by the writer and amateur folklorist William Butler Yeats. Nope. William Butler Yeats. Yeats was part of the revivalist literary movement, greatly influential in calling attention to the leprechaun in the late 19th century. This classification by Yeats is derived from D.R. McAnally, Irish Wonders 1888, derived in turn from John O'Hanlon, 1870. It is stressed that the leprechaun, though some may call it a fairy, is clearly to be distinguished from the Ausse, or Aussie, or the good people of the fairy mounds, Sitha, or Sitha? I don't know how to pronounce that. Sitha? Shit. Yo, Thunder Kitty. And Wrath. Leprechaun, being solitary, is one distinguishing characteristic, but additionally the leprechaun is thought only to engage in pranks on the level of mischief, and requiring special caution. But in the contrast, the Ausse may carry out deeds more menacing to humans. For example, the spirit in a way of children. Oh, so leprechauns are more benign. The identification of the leprechaun as a fairy has been consigned to popular notion by folklorist Diarmuid O'Giolan. O'Giolan observes that the dwarf of the Teutonic and other traditions, as well as the household familiar, are more amenable comparison. According to William Butler Yeats, the great wealth of those fairies comes from the treasure crocks, buried of old in wartime, which they have uncovered and appropriated. According to David Russell McAnally, the leprechaun is the son of an evil spirit and a degenerate fairy, and is not wholly good nor wholly evil. So chaotic neutral. Leprechaun originally had a different appearance depending on where in Ireland he was found. Prior to the 20th century, it was generally held that the leprechaun wore red, not green. Samuel Lover, writing in 1831, describes the leprechaun as quite a beau in his dress, notwithstanding, for he wears a square cut coat of red, richly laced in gold, and inexpressible of the same, cocked hat, shoes and buckles. According to Yeats, the solitary fairies, like the leprechaun, wear red jackets, whereas trooping fairies wear green. The leprechaun's jacket has 7 rows of buttons, with 7 buttons to each row. On the western coast, he writes, the red jacket. The red jacket is covered by a frieze one. Oh, like a wool one. And in Ulster, the creature wears a cocked hat, and when he's up to anything unusually mischievous, he leaps onto a wall and spins, balancing himself on the point of the hat, with his heels in the air. Okay, that's kind of cute though. According to McAnally, Universal Leprechaun is described as, he's about 3 feet high. He's dressed in a little red jacket or a roundabout, with red breeches buckled at the knee, red or black stockings, and a hat cocked in the style of a century ago, over a little old withered face. Round his neck is an Elizabethan ruff, and frills and lace are at his wrists. On the wild west coast, where the Atlantic winds bring almost constant rains, he dispenses with the ruff and frills and wears a frieze overcoat over his pretty red suit, so that, unless on the lookout for the cocked hat, he might pass a leprechaun on the road and never know it's himself. That's it at all. The dress could vary by region, however. In McAnally's account, there were differences between leprechauns or loggerymans from different regions. The northern leprechaun, or the loggeryman, wore a military red coat and white breeches, with a broad-brimmed, high-pointed hat, on which he would sometimes stand upside down. The Lurigadowne of Tipperary wore an antique slashed jacket of red, with peaks all around and a jockey cap, also sporting a sword, which he uses as a magic wand. The Luricone of Kerry was a fat, pursy little fella, whose jolly round face rivals in redness the cutaway jacket he wears, that always has 7 rows of 7 buttons in each row. The Cluricone of Monaghan wore a swallow red-tailed evening coat of red with a green vest, white breeches, black stockings, shiny shoes, and a long cone hat without a brim, sometimes used as a weapon. What? Damn. Yeah. In a poem entitled The Leprechaun, a fairy shoemaker, 18th century poet William Allingham describes the appearance of a leprechaun as a wrinkled, wizened and bearded elf, spectacles stuck on his pointed nose, silver buckles to his hose, leather apron, shoe in his lap. Wait, there's poetry I could be reading? The modern image of the leprechaun sitting on a toadstool, having a red beard and a green hat, etc., is clearly a more modern invention, or borrowed from other strands of European folklore. The most likely explanation for the modern-day leprechaun appearance is that green is a traditional Irish colour dating back as far as 1642. The hat might be derived from the style of outdated fashion still common in Ireland in the 19th century. This style of fashion was commonly worn by Irish immigrants to the United States, since some Elizabethan-era clothes were still common in Ireland in the 19th century, long after they were out of fashion, as depicted by the stage Irish. The buckle shoes and other garments have also have their origin in Elizabethan period in Ireland. The leprechaun is related to the cluricaun, and the Fardarg, and that he's a solitary creature. Some writers even go as far as to substitute these two less well-known spirits, the leprechaun in stories or tales, to reach a wider audience. The cluricaun is considered by some to be merely a leprechaun on a drinking spree. Alright, that was delightful. I feel so educated. Okay, leprechauns are kind of cute, though. Sorry, I'm looking for shit. And apparently it's still coughing up phlegm. My bad. Let's see. Oh shit, I have so many stories. Oh my god, okay. Ghosts, Tir na Nog, Saints, Devil. Let's do the story of a little bird. 378. Oh shit, this thing is hyperlinked. Well, that's awesome. From T. Crofton Crocker. Many years ago, there was a very religious and holy man, one of the monks of a convent. And he was one day kneeling at his prayers in the garden of the monastery, when he heard a little bird singing in one of the rose trees of the garden. And there never was anything that he had heard in the world so sweet as the song of that little bird. Ren immediately went, "It me!" I mean, it could have been a Ren. Yeah. And the holy man rose up from his knees where he was kneeling at his prayers to listen to his song. For he thought he never in all his life heard anything so heavenly. And the little bird, after singing for some time longer on the rose tree, flew away to a grove at some distance from the monastery, and the holy man followed it to listen to it singing, for he felt as if he would never be tired of listening to the sweet song it was singing out of his throat. And the little bird after that went away to another distant tree and sung there for a while, and then to another tree, and so on in the same manner, but ever further and further away from the monastery, and the holy man still following it further and further and further, still listening delighted to its enchanting song. But at last he was obliged to give up, as it was growing late in the day, and he returned to the convent, and as he approached it in the evening, the sun was setting in the west, with all the most heavenly colours that were ever seen in the world. And when he came into the convent, it was nightfall, and he was quite surprised at everything he saw, for they were all strange faces about him in the monastery that he had never seen before, and the very place itself and everything about it seemed to be strangely altered, and altogether it seemed entirely different from what it was when he'd left it in the morning. And the garden was not like the garden where he'd been kneeling at his devotion when he first heard the singing of the little bird. And while he was wondering at all he saw, one of the monks of the convent came up to him, and the holy man questioned him. "Brother, what is the cause of all these strange changes that had taken place here since the morning?" And the monk that he spoke to seemed to wonder greatly at his question, and asked him what he meant by the change since morning. For sure there was no change, it was always just as before. And then he said, "Brother, why do you ask me these strange questions? And what's your name? For you wear the habit of our order, though I've never seen you before." And so upon this the holy man told his name, and said that he had been at mass in the chapel in the morning, before he wandered away from the garden listening to the song of a little bird that was singing among the rose trees, near where he was kneeling at his prayers. And the brother, while he was speaking, gazed at him very earnestly, and told him that there was a tradition. Nope. And then told him that there was a... Fuck. And then told him that there was in the convent a tradition of a brother in his name, who had left it 200 years before, but that what became of him was never known. And while he was speaking, the holy man said, "My hour of death has come. Blessed be the name of the Lord for all his mercies to me, through all the merits of his only begotten Son." And he kneeled down at that very moment and said, "Brother, take my confession for my soul's departing." And he made his confession and received his absolution. He was anointed, and before midnight he died. The little bird, you see, was an angel, one of the cherubims or seraphims. And that was the way the Almighty was pleased in his mercy to take to himself the soul of that holy man. Is it still you, Ren? No. Sorry, I'm looking at another one. Oh, here we go. This one's called Oisin in Tir na Og. There was a king in Tir na Og, the land of youth, who held the throne and crown for many a year against all corners. Nope, against all comers. And the law of the kingdom was that every 7th year the champions and best men of the country should run for the office of king. democracy? Once in 7 years, they all met at the front of the palace and ran to the top of the hills, the top of the hill 2 miles distant. On top of that hill was a chair, and the man that sat first in the chair was the king of the Tir na Og for the next 7 years. After he'd ruled for ages, the king became anxious. He was afraid that someone might sit in the chair before him and take the crown off his head. So he called up his druid one day and asked, How long shall I keep the chair to rule this land? And will any man sit in it before me and take the crown off my head?
You will keep the chair and crown forever,
said the druid,
unless your own son-in-law takes them from you.
The king had no sons but one daughter, the finest woman in Tir na Og, and the like of her could not be found in Erin, or any kingdom in the world. When the king heard the words of the druid, he said, I'll have no son-in-law, for I'll put the daughter in a way no man will ever marry her. Then he took a rod of druidic spells, and calling the daughter up before him, he struck her with the rod, and put a pig's head on her in place of her own. Then he sent the daughter away to her own place in the castle, and turning to the druid said, There's no man that'll marry now. The druid saw the face that was on the princess with the pig's head that the father gave her. He grew very sorry that he had given such information to the king, and some time after he went to see the princess. Must I be in this way forever? Asked she of the druid. You must, said he. Oh, sorry.
You must,
said he,
till you marry one of the sons of Finn, Macumbail and Erin. If you marry one of Finn's sons, you'll be free to the blot as on you now, and get back to your own head and countenance.
When she heard this, she was impatient in her mind, and could never rest till she left Tir na Og and came to Erin. When she inquired, she heard that Finn and the Fenians of Erin were at the time living on Knock and Ar. And she made her way to the place without delay and lived there a while. And when she saw Oisin, he pleased her. When she found out that he was the son of Finn Macumhail, I don't know. Son of Finn! She was always making up to him and coming towards him. And it was usual for the Fenians in those days to go out hunting on the hills and mountains and in the woods of Erin. And when one of them went, he always took 5 or 6 men with him to bring home game. On a day, Oisin left with his men and dogs to the woods. He went so far and killed so much game that when it was brought together, the men were so tired, weak and hungry that they couldn't carry it. They went away home and left him with 3 dogs, Bran, Scolin and Bolgan, famous dogs from Finn Macumhail, to shift for himself. Now the daughter of the king in Tir na Og, who was herself the queen of youth, followed closely in the hunt all day. And when the men left Oisin, she came up to him, and as he stood looking at the great pile of game, and said, I'm sorry, very sorry to leave behind anything I've had the trouble of killing. She looked at him and said, Tie up a bundle for me, and I'll carry it to lighten the load off you. Oisin gave her a bundle of the game to carry, and took the remainder himself. The evening was very warm and the game heavy, and after they'd gone some distance, Oisin said, Let us rest for a while. Both threw down their burdens and put their backs against a great stone that was by the roadside. The woman was heated and out of breath, and opened her dress to cool herself. Then Oisin looked at her and saw her beautiful form and her white bosom. Oh then, said he, it's a pity you have a pig's head on you. for I've never seen such an appearance on a woman all my life before. Well, said she, my father's the king of Tir na Nog. I thought he was the finest woman in his kingdom and most beautiful of all, till he put me under a druidic spell and gave me the pig's head that's on me now, in place of my own. And the druid of Tir na Nog came to me afterwards and told me that if one of the sons of Finn McCall were to marry me, the pig's head would vanish and I should get my face back in the same form as it was before my father struck me with the druid's wand. When I heard this, I never stopped till I came to Ireland, where I found your father and picked you out among the sons of Finn McCall, and followed you to see would you marry me and set me free. Well, if that's the state you're in, and if marriage with me will set you free this spell, I'll not leave the pig's head on you long. So they got married without delay, not wanting to take home the game or to lift it from the ground. Not waiting, rather. The moment that the pig's head was gone and the king's daughter... Oh, and the king's daughter had the same face and beauty that she had before, her father struck her with the druidic wand. Oh, that moment, the pig's head was gone and the king's daughter had the same face and beauty that she had before the king struck her. Now, said the Queen of Youth to Oisin, I cannot stay here long. Unless you come with me to Tir na Nog, we must part. Oh, said Oisin. Have you go, and wherever you'll turn, I'll follow. Then she turned, and Oisin went with her, not going back to Knocknar to see his father or his son. His son? Uh-oh. That very day they set out for Tir na Nog and never stopped till they came to her father's castle. And when they came, there was a welcome before them. For the king thought his daughter was lost. That same year was to be choice of a king. And when the appointed day came, at the end of the 7th year, all the great men and champions and the king himself met together at the front of the castle to run and see who should be first in the chair on the hill. But before a man of them was halfway to the hill, Oisin was sitting above in the chair before them. After that time, no one stood up to run for office against Oisin, and he spent many a happy year as the king of Tir na Nog. At last he said to his wife, I wish I could be in Ireland today to see my father and his men. If you go, said his wife, and set foot in the land of Ireland, you'll never come back here to me, and you'll become a blind old man. How long do you think it's since you've come here? About 3 years, said Oisin. It's 300 years, said she, since you came to this kingdom with me. If you must go to Ireland, I'll give you this white steed to carry you. But if you come down from the steed or touch the soil of Ireland with your foot, the steed'll come back that minute, and you'll be where he left you, a poor old man. I'll come back, never fear, said Oisin. Have I not a good reason to come back? I must see my father and my son and my friends in Ireland once more. I must even one look at them. Dude, it's been 300 years. They're gone. I'm sorry, but you can't marry a woman for her boobs. I guess that's the lesson here, huh? She prepared a steed for Oisin and said, This steed will carry you wherever you wish to go. Oisin never stopped till the steed touched the soil of Ireland. And he went till he came to Knockpatrick in Munster, where he saw a man herding cows. In the field where the cows were grazing there was a broad flat stone. Will you come here, said Oisin to the herdsman, and turn over the stone? Indeed, then, I will not, said the herdsman, for I could not lift it. Not 20 men more than me. Oisin rode up to the stone, and reaching down, caught it with his hand and turned it over. Underneath the stone was the great horn of the Fenians, which circled round like a seashell. It was the rule that when any of the Fenians of Iron blew the horn, the Barabu, the others would assemble at once from whatever part of the country they might be in at the time. "Will you bring this horn to me?" asked Oisin of the herdsman. "I will not," said the herdsman, "for neither I nor many more like me could raise it from the ground." With that, Oisin moved near the horn, and reaching down, took it in his hand. But so eager he was to blow it, that he forgot everything, and slipped in reaching till one foot touched the earth. In an instant, the steed was gone, and Oisin lay on the ground, a blind old man. The herdsman went to St. Patrick, who lived nearby, and told him what had happened. St. Patrick sent a man and a horse for Oisin, brought him to his own house, gave him a room by himself, and sent a boy to stay with him and serve and take care of him. And St. Patrick commanded his cook to send Oisin plenty of meat and drink, to give him bread and beef and butter every day. Now Oisin lived a while this way. The cook sent him provisions each day, and St. Patrick himself asked him all kinds of questions about the old times of the Fenians and Iron. Oisin told him about his father, Finn McCall, about himself, his son Osgar, Gol MacMorna, Conan Mao, Dermot, and all the Fenian heroes, how they fought, feasted, and hunted, how they came under druidic spells, and how they were freed from them. At the same time, St. Patrick was putting up a great building. But what his men used to put up in the daytime was levelled at night, and St. Patrick lamented over his losses in the hearing of Oisin. And Oisin said in the hearing of St. Patrick, "If I had my strength and my sight, I'd put a stop to the power that's levelling your work." "And do you think you'd be able to do that?" said St. Patrick, "and let my building go on?" "I do indeed," said Oisin. So St. Patrick prayed to the Lord, and the sight and strength came back to Oisin. He went to the woods and got a great club and stood at the building on guard. What should come in the night but a great beast in the form of a bull, which began to uproot and destroy the work. But if he did, Oisin faced him, and the battle began hot and heavy between the two. But in the course of the night, Oisin got the upper hand, and the bull left him dead. Nope. Oisin got the upper hand of the bull and left him dead before the building. Then he stretched out on the ground himself and fell asleep. Now St. Patrick was waiting home to know how would be the battle come out. And thinking Oisin too long away, he sent a messenger to the building. And when the messenger came, he saw the ground torn up, a hill in one place and a hollow in the next. The bull was dead, and Oisin sleeping after the desperate battle. He went back and told what he saw. "Oh," St. Patrick said, "it's better to knock the strength out of him again. He'll kill us all if he gets vexed." "What the f- He just did you a favor." St. Patrick took the strength out of him. When Oisin woke up, he was a blind old man, and the messenger went and brought him home. Oisin lived on for a time as before. The cook sent him his food, the boy served him, and St. Patrick listened to the stories of the Fenians of Iron. St. Patrick had a neighbour, a very rich man, but the greatest miser in the kingdom. He had the finest haggard of corn and iron. Well, the miser and St. Patrick got very intimate with one another. Excuse me? And so great became the friendship of the miser for St. Patrick at last. But he said he'd give him for the support of his house as much corn as one man could thrash out of the haggard. Oh, a hay yard. In a day. When St. Patrick went home after getting the promise of the corn, he told in the hearing of Oisin about what the miser had said. "No then," said Oisin, "if I had my sight and strength, I'd thrash as much corn in one day as would do your whole house for a 12-month and more." "Will you do that for me?" said St. Patrick. "I will," said Oisin. Oh my god. St. Patrick again prayed to the Lord, and the sight and strength came back to Oisin. He went to the woods next morning at daybreak, Oisin did. Pulled up 2 fine ash trees and made a flail of them. After eating his breakfast, he left the house and never stopped till he faced the hay yard of the miser. Standing before one of the stacks of wheat, he hit it a wallop of his flail and broke it asunder. He kept on this way till he slashed the whole hay yard to and fro. And the miser, running like mad up and down the high road in front of the hay yard, tearing the hair from his head when he saw what he was doing to his wheat. And the face gone from him entirely, he was so in dread of Oisin. When the hay yard was thrashed clean, Oisin went to St. Patrick and told him to send his men for the wheat, for he'd thrashed out the whole hay yard. When St. Patrick saw the countenance that was Oisin and what he had done, he was greatly in dread of him, and knocked the strength out of him again. And Oisin became an old blind man as before. Oh my god, this St. Patrick is a real dick. St. Patrick's men went to the hay yard, and there was so much wheat they didn't bring the half of it away with them, and they didn't want it. Oisin again lived a while, as before, and then he was vexed because the cook didn't give him what he wanted. He told St. Patrick that he wasn't getting enough to eat, and St. Patrick called up the cook before himself and Oisin, and asked her what she was giving Oisin to eat. She said, "I give him every meal but bread is baked and on a large griddle, and all the butter I make in one turn, and a quarter of beef besides." "Oh, that ought to be enough for you," said St. Patrick's. "Oh then," said Oisin, turning to the cook, "I have often seen the leg of a blackbird bigger than the quarter of beef you gave me, and I've often seen an ivy leaf bigger than the griddle on which you bake bread for me, and I've often seen a single rowan berry bigger than the bit of butter you give me to eat." "You lie," said the cook. "You never did." Oisin said not a word in answer. Now there was a hound in the place that was going to have her first whelps, and Oisin said to the boy who was tending him, "Do you mind if I get the first whelp she'll have and during the others?" What the fuck? Okay, maybe this dude had a point. Why? Why are they such dicks? Oh man. Next morning the boy found 3 whelps, and coming back to Oisin said, "There are 3 whelps and it's unknown which of them is the first." At St. Patrick's house they had slaughtered an ox the day before, and Oisin said, "Go now and bring the hide of an ox and hang it up in this room." When the hide was hung up, Oisin said, "Bring here the 3 whelps and throw them up against the hide." The boy threw one of the whelps up against the ox hide. "What did you do?" said Oisin. "What did he do?" said the boy. "He fell to the ground." "Throw up another," said Oisin. The boy threw another. "What did he do?" said Oisin. "What did he do but fall the same as the first?" The third whelp was thrown and held fast to the hide and didn't fall. What do you do? Asked Oisin. Oh, the boy said, it kept us hold. Yeah, take him down, said Oisin. Give him to the mother. Bring both in here, feed the mother well, and drown the other two. Why? The boy did as he was commanded and fed the two well. And when the whelp grew, the mother was banished. The whelp chained up and fed for a year and a day. And when the year and the day were spent, Oisin said, we'll go hunting tomorrow and we'll take the dog with us. They went the next day, the boy guiding Oisin, holding the dog by a chain. They went first to the place where Oisin had touched the earth and lost the magic steed from Tir na Nog. The Boraboo of the Fenians of Erin was lying on the ground there still. Oisin took it up, and they went to the Glen na Smuil, the Thrush's Glen. And at the edge of the glen, Oisin began to sound the Boraboo. Beasts and birds of every kind came hurrying forward. He blew the horn till the glen was full of them from end to end. What do you see now? Said he to the boy. The glen is full of living things. What's the dog doing? He's looking ahead, and his hair is on end. Do you see anything else? I see a great bird, all black, setting down on the north side of the glen. That's what I want, said Oisin. And what's the dog doing now? Oh, the eyes are coming out of his head, and there isn't a rib of hair on his body that isn't standing up. Let him go now, said Oisin. The boy let slip the chain, and the dog rushed through the glen, killing everything before him. When the others were dead, he turned to the great blackbird and killed that. Then he faced Oisin and the boy and came bounding toward them, with venom and fierceness. Oisin drew out of his bosom a brass bell and said, Nice bound. Well done, Sassy. And said, If you don't throw this into the dog's mouth and destroy... Nope. If you don't throw this into the dog's mouth, he'll destroy us both. Knock the dog with the bell, or he'll tear us to pieces. Oh, said the boy, I'll never be able to throw the bow. I'm so in dread of the dog. Bell or ball? Oh, brass ball. Okay. Come here, had my back then, said Oisin, and straightened my hand toward the dog. The boy directed the hand of Oisin. No, the boy directed the hand, and Oisin threw the ball into the dog's mouth and killed him on the spot. What have we done? What have we done? Said Oisin. Well, the dog just knocked, said the boy. Ah, we're all right then, said Oisin. And ye lead me now to the blackbird, the cairn. I don't care for the others. They went to the great bird, kindled a fire, and cooked all except one of its legs. Then Oisin ate as much as he wanted and said, I've had a good meal of my own hunting, and it's many, many a day since I've had one. Now let us go on farther. They went into the woods, and Oisin asked the boy, Do you see anything wonderful? I see an ivy with the largest leaves I've ever set eyes on. Take one leaf of that ivy, said Oisin. The boy took the leaf. Near the ivy they found a rowan berry, and then went home, taking the three things with them. The blackbird's leg, the ivy leaf, and the rowan berry. When they reached the house, Oisin called for the cook, and St. Patrick made her come to the fore. When she came, Oisin pointed to the blackbird's leg and asked, Which is larger, that leg or the quarter of beef you gave me? Oh, that is a deal larger, said the cook. Ah, you're right in that case, said St. Patrick to Oisin. Then Oisin drew the ivy leaf and asked, Which is larger, this or the griddle on which you make bread for me? That is larger than the griddle and the bread together, said the cook. Right again, said St. Patrick. Oisin now took the rowan berry and asked, Which is larger, this berry or the butter of one churning which you gave me? Oh, that's bigger, said the cook. And both the churn and the butter. Right every time, said St. Patrick. Then Oisin raised his arm and swept the head off the cook. What the fuck? Then Oisin raised his arm and swept the head off the cook with a stroke from the edge of his hand, saying, "You'll never give the lie to an honest man again." Oh my god! Jesus Christ, he became a crotchety old man fast. Well, yes, by definition he did. Well, that was fascinating. Alright, I've got one more left in me. I love this music. Hold on, I'm shopping. For stories, of course. Alright. This one is called Loch Leag, or the Lake of Healing. "Do you see that bit of a lake?" said my companion, turning his eyes toward the acclivity that overhung Loch Leag. "Troth, and as little as you think of it, and as ugly as it looked with its weeds and flags. It is the most famous one in all Ireland. Young and old, rich and poor, far and near, come to this lake to get cures of all kinds of scurvy and sores. Lord keep us our limbs whole and sound. It's a sorrowful thing not to have use of 'em. 'Twas but a week we had a great grand Frenchman here, and though he came upon crutches, faith he went home sound as a bell, and well he paid Billy Riley for curing him. And pray, how did Billy Riley cure him? Oh, well enough. He took his long pole, digged it down to the bottom of the lake, brought up on the top of it as much plaster as would do for 1,000 sores. What kind of plaster? What kind of plaster? Why, black plaster to be sure. For isn't the bottom of the lake filled with that kind of black mud which cures all the world? And it ought to be a famous lake indeed. Famous, and so it is, replied my companion. But it isn't for its cures, neither that it's famous for sure. Doesn't all the world know that there's a fine beautiful city at the bottom of it, where the good people live just like Christians? Troth, it's the truth I tell you, for Seamus a Sneyd saw it. All when he followed his dun cow that was stolen. Well, who stole her? I'll tell you about it. Seamus was a poor gossoon who lived on the brow of the hill in a cabin with his old mother. They lived by hook and by crook, one way or another, in the best way they could. They have a bit of ground that gave him the pratie, and this dun cow that gave him the drop of milk. And considering how times go, they weren't badly off, for Seamus was a handly gossoon to boot. And all minding the cow, cut heath and made brooms, which his mother sold on a market day, and brought home a bit of the tobacco, a grain of salt, and other knick-nannies, which a poor body can't do well without. Once upon a time, however, Seamus went farther than usual up on the mountain, looking for long heath, for townspeople don't like to stoop, and so like long handles to their brooms. But his dun cow was amongst them, was almost as cunning as a Christian sinner, and followed Seamus like a lapdog everywhere he'd go, that she required little or no herding. On this day she found nice picking on a round spot as green as a leek, and as poor Seamus was weary, as a body would be on a fine summer's day, he lay down on the grass to rest himself, just as we're resting ourselves on the cairn here. Begad, he hadn't long lain there, sure enough, when what should he see but a whole loads of gonconers dancing about the place. Some of them were hurling, some of them kicking a football, and others were leaping a kick step and a leap. They were so supple and active that Seamus was highly delighted with their sport. The little tanned-skinned chap in a red cap pleased him better than any of them, because he used to tumble the other fellows like mushrooms. At one time he kept the ball up for as good as half an hour, and Seamus cried out, "Well done, my hurler." Damn, Sassy's busy, well done. The word wasn't well out of his mouth when whack went the ball on his eye, and a flash went the fire. Poor Seamus thought he was blind and roared out, "Millie murder!" But the only thing he heard was a loud laugh. "Cross o' Christ about us," says he to himself. "What's this for?" And after rubbing his eyes, he came to a little. He could see the sun in the sky, and by he could see everything but his cow and the mischievous gonconers. They were gone, and their wrath remote. But where's the little dun cow? He looked and he looked, and he might have looked from that day to this, because she wasn't to be found, for good reason why. The gonconers took her away with them. Seamus the Sneyd, however, didn't think so, but ran home to his mother. "Where's the cow, Seamus?" asked the old woman. "Oh, she must have bad luck to her," said Seamus. "I don't know where she is." "Is that an answer, you big blagger, for the likes of you to give your poor old mother?" said she. "Oh, musha," said Seamus. "Don't kick up such a bolus about nothing. The old cow is safe enough. I'll be the bail someplace or other. But I could find her if I put her eyes upon Capeen's. And speaking of eyes, Faith, I had very good luck on my side, for I have never a one to look after her. Why, what happened to your eyes, Aga? Asked the old woman. Oh, didn't the Gonkiners, Lord save us all from hurt and harm, drove their hurling ball into them both, and I was sure I was stone blind for an hour. It may be, said the mother. The good people took our cow. No, nor is the devil as one of them, said Seamus. For by the power of the same cow is known as her lawyer, she wouldn't be such a fool as to go with the Gonkiners when she could get such grass as I found for her today. In this way, continued my informant, they talked about the cow all that night. And next morning, both of them set off to look for her. And after searching every place high and low, what should Seamus see sticking out from the bog hole but something very much like the horns of his little beast? Oh, mother, said he, I found her. Where, Alana? Asked the old woman. In the bog hole, mother, answered Seamus. This poor old creature. I set up such a pallialee. Pullaloo, eh? Something. And she brought the 7 parishes about her. The neighbour soon pulled the cow out of the bog hole. You'd swear it was the same, and yet it wasn't. You shall hear by the by. Seamus and his mother brought the dead beast home with them, and after skinning her, hung the meat up in the chimney. The loss of the drop of milk was a sorrowful thing, and though they had a good deal of meat, it couldn't last always. Besides, the whole parish fawed upon them for eating the flesh of a beast that died without bleeding. But the pretty thing was, they couldn't eat the meat after all. When it was boiled, it was tough as carrion, and black as a turf. You might as well think of sinking your teeth in an oak plank as into a piece of it. And then you'd want to sit a great piece from the wall for fear of knocking your head against it and pulling it through your teeth. At last, in the long run, they were forced to throw it to the dogs, but the dogs wouldn't smell it. So it was thrown into the ditch where it rotted. This misfortune cost Seamus many a salt tear, for now he was obliged to work twice as hard as before, and to be out cutting heath on the mountain late and early. One day he was passing by this cairn with a load of brooms on his back, when what should he see but the little dun cow and 2 red-headed fellows herding her. That's my mother's cow, said Seamus to Sneed. No, it's not, said one of the chaps. But I say it is, said Seamus, throwing the brooms on the ground and seizing the cow by the horns. As the red fellows drove her as fast as they could to this steep place, and with one leap she bounced over, with Seamus stuck fast to her horns. They made only one splash in the low when the waters closed over them, and they sunk to the bottom. Just as Seamus the Sneed thought that was all but over with. Just as Seamus the Sneed thought that all was over with him, he found himself before a most elegant palace built with jewels and all manner of fine stones. Though his eyes were dazzled with the splendour of the place. Faith, he had, gomsh, enough not to let go of his hold. But in spite of all they could do, he held his little cow by the horns. He was axed into the palace, but he wouldn't go. The hubbub at last grew so great that the door flew open, and out walked 100 ladies and gentlemen as fine as any in the land. What is the boy want? Asked one of them, who seemed to be the master. I want my mother's cow, said Seamus. That's not your mother's cow, said the gentleman. Leathershin, cried Seamus the Sneed. Don't I know her as well as I know my right hand? Where'd you lose her? Asked the gentleman. And so Seamus up and told him all about it. How he was on the mountain, how the good people hurling, how the ball was knocked in his eye, and how his cow was lost. I believe you are right, said the gentleman, pulling out his purse. And here's the price of 20 cows for you. No, said Seamus. You'll not catch old birds with chaff. I'll have my cow and nothing else. You're a funny fellow, said the gentleman. Stop here and live in the palace. I'd rather live with my mother. A foolish boy, the gentleman. Stop here and live in a palace. I'd rather live in my mother's cabin. Here you can walk through the garden loaded with fruit and flowers. I'd rather, said Seamus, be cutting heath on the mountain. Here you can eat and drink of the best. Since I've got my cow, I can have milk once more with the platties. Oh, cried the ladies, gathering around him. Sure you wouldn't take away the cow that gives us milk for our tea. Oh, said Seamus, my mother wants milk as bad as anyone, and she must have it. There's no use in all your palaver. He must have my cow. At this, they all gathered round him and offered him bushels of gold, but he wouldn't have anything but his cow. Seeing him as obstinate as a mule, they began to thump and beat him, but he still held fast by the horns till at length a great blast of wind blew him out of the place, and in a moment he found himself and the cow standing on the side of the lake, the water of which looked as if it hadn't been disturbed since Adam was a boy. And that's a long time since. Well, Seamus the Sneed drove home his cow, and right glad his mother was to see her. At the moment she said, God bless the beast. She sank down like a Brishon turfrick. And that was the end of Seamus Sneed's dun cow. And sure, continued my companion, standing up, it's now time for me to look after my own brown cow, and God send the Gonkaners haven't taken her. Of this I assured him there could be no fear, and so we parted. I'm trying to nap, people. Yeah, I think that's about all I've got left in me tonight. These are fun. I want to do more of these. I might do one more. I'm just along for the ride. Yeah, I'm looking through. My voice is starting to die. But this music is keeping me going. Okay, I can't see this and not read it. Tom Daly and the Nut-Eating Ghost. I'm going in blind. The value of the next story, which was told by the blind men, apart from the comic in its form and contents, is the fact that nuts are buried for the godfather to eat after death. This is an interesting survival of primitive Gaelic belief. Ugh. You can hear me alright, right? I might shift. Okay. I'm destroying everything. Alright. Tom Daly lived between Kenmare and Skneam. Skneam? Okay. But nearer to Kenmare. And he had an only son who was called Tom after the father. When the son was 18 years old, Tom Daly died, leaving a widow and the son. The wife was paralysed 2 years before Tom's death and could rise out of bed only as she was taken out. But as the fire was near the bed, she could push a piece of turf into it and the turf was left at hand. Tom Daly, while alive, was in the employ of a gentleman living in Drummond Castle. Young Tom got the father's place and he looked on his godfather as he would his own father. The father and godfather had been great friends always, and Tom's mother was fond of the godfather as she was of her own husband. 4 years after Tom had died, the godfather followed him. He was very fond of chestnuts, and when he came to die, he asked his friends to put a big wooden dish of them right next to his coffin, so that he might come at the nuts in the next world. They carried out the man's wishes. The godfather was buried, and the bedridden widow mourned him as much as for her own husband. The young man continued to work for the gentleman at Drummond Castle, and in the winter it was often late in the evening before he could come home. It was a short cut from the gentleman's place to the grove and past the graveyard. Young Tom was going home one winter night. The moon was shining very brightly. While passing the graveyard, he saw a man on a big tomb that was in it, and he was cracking nuts. Young Dolly saw that it was on his godfather's tomb, the man was. And when he remembered the nuts that were buried with him, he believed in 1 minute that it was his godfather who was before him. He was greatly in dread of him, and ran off as fast as ever his legs could carry him. When he reached home, he was out of breath and panting. "What is on you?" asked the mother, and to be choking for breath. "Sure, I saw my godfather sitting on the tomb and he was eating the nuts that were buried with him." "Ah, bad luck to you," said the mother. "Don't be pillying the dead. For it's a great sin to tell one lie on the dead as 10 on the living." "Oh, God no," said Tom. "I would not belie my grandfather. And 'tis that he's in it, and I hadn't enough time to know him before he died." "Do you say in truth, Tom, that 'tis your godfather?" "As sure as you are my mother. There before me 'tis my godfather that's in the graveyard, cracking nuts. Bring me to him for the mercy of God, till I ask him about your own father in the other world." "I'll not do that," said Tom. "What a queer thing it would be to bring you to the dead." "Isn't it better to go, Tom dear, and speak to him? Ask God your father, and know he's suffering in the other world. If it is, we could relieve him with the masses for his soul." Tom agreed at last, and the mother was a cripple. All he could do was put a sheet around her and take her on his back. He went toward the graveyard then. There was a great thief living not far from Kenmare, and he came that night toward the estate of the gentleman where Tom was working. The gentleman had a couple of 100 fat sheep that were grazing. The thief made up his mind to have one of the sheep, and he sent an apprentice boy that he had to catch one, and said he'd keep watch on the top of the tomb. As he had some nuts in his pocket, the thief began to crack them. The boy went for the sheep, But before he came back, the thief saw Tom Daly with his mother on his back. Thinking that it was his apprentice with the sheep, he called out, "Is she fat?" Tom Daly, thinking it was the ghost asking about his mother, dropped her and said, "Beggar then, she isn't heavy." Away with him then, as fast as ever his 2 legs could carry him, leaving his mother behind. She, forgetting her husband and thinking the ghost would kill and eat her, jumped up, ran home like a deer, and was there as soon as her son. "God spare you, mother, how could you come?" cried Tom. "And be here as soon as myself." "Sure, I moved like a blast of March wind," said the old woman. "'Tis the luckiest ride I had in my life. For out of the fright of the good Lord gave me my legs again." What the That's so funny to me. Oh no. Glad I read one more. Yeah. Oh. These are fun. We gotta remember that the Irish ones are fun. That was amazing. Let me see if I can find some more poetry. Oh, The Last Rose of Summer is another song I sang. You know what? No. I don't think anything is gonna top that. I don't think anything is gonna top that. That feels like a good place to stop. It's just something about the image of the old woman just like road running her way out of there is just I can't. But anyways, I think that's where I'm gonna be calling it. Thank you, Sassy, for staying out with me. If more people want more Irish spooks, they'll let me know tomorrow. Not tomorrow, the other tomorrow. The tomorrow that's next week. Why the fuck is the rum always gone? Did I really just finish this whole water bottle? Fuck me, I guess I was thirsty. Shit. Alexi would be proud. Yeah, that was an hour and a half stream. That's not bad. We've had much longer, and we've had much shorter. But yeah. You get some rest now. I've been hearing from a certain edgehead that you make peanut butter cookies, and I know those take effort. Apparently, they're also extremely good. Of that, I have no doubt. It ain't called heaven cake for nothing. Either way, get some rest. You've got a full day ahead of you. And I think this Irish accent is stuck now. This is gonna take a minute to go away. Ah, there are worse things. In the meantime, do not eat or drink any questionable substances. Make smart decisions to not die. Dying is absolutely forbidden. And I will see all of your wonderful people at a later time. I love y'all. Take care, guys. Oh, this accent is good and stuff. Definitely good and stuck.